Hello there and welcome to my guide for painting Agent Coulson and Sharon Carter for Marvel Zombies. First thing I did was give them both a spray with some matte white spray from Colourforge. Starting with Coulson, I painted his suit with some Fenrisian Grey, which received a wash with some Nuln oil. While that wash dried, we'll start on Sharon Carter, and for all the white areas, I'm going to start with Grey Seer. And she'll be given a wash with some Apothecary White contrast paint. Once those washes are dry, we'll go back and I'm going to relayer the Fenrisian Grey on Coulson, making sure I avoid the recesses. Then for the final highlight, we'll do a 50-50 mix of Fenrisian Grey and Blue Hop. For his shirt, we're going to use some Grey Seer, and we're also going to use that Grey Seer to paint his weapon as well. Then we'll relayer the Grey Seer on Sharon Carter, making sure we avoid all the recesses. For the first set of highlights on all the white, we'll do a 50-50 mix of Grey Seer and matte white. And then for the second and final highlight, we'll use matte white just by itself. With the white out of the way, I'm going to move on to Sharon Carter's holsters, and I'm going to use Mournfang Brown, followed by a wash with Army Painter Soft Tone. And while that wash dries, I'm going to paint Agent Coulson's tie with some Pink Horror, which will be highlighted with a 50-50 mix of Pink Horror and matte white, followed by the same mix but at a 30-70 ratio in favour of matte white. Once the wash on the holsters is dry, we're going to do a 50-50 mix of Mournfang Brown and Scrag Brown for the first highlight, followed by a second highlight of Scrag Brown by itself. Now we're going to move on to the skin, and we're going to use Cadian Flesh Tone on both Carter and Coulson, which will wash with some Reichland Flesh Shade. While that wash dries, we'll move on to some black details with Abaddon Black, so that's Agent Carter's guns, Coulson's shoes, Coulson's sunglasses, and finally some of the details on Coulson's weapon. All of these areas will then be washed with some Nuln oil. And while we've got the Abaddon Black out, we're also going to paint in Agent Carter's eyes. And this will be followed by matte white. And then finally dotting the pupils in with a little bit more Abaddon Black. We'll then relayer the Cadian Flesh Tone with some Cadian Flesh Tone, avoiding the recesses. This will be followed by a 50-50 mix of Cadian Flesh Tone and Kislev Flesh, before a final highlight of Kislev Flesh. Then we'll highlight all the black details with some Corvus Black. This part you can skip if you want, but I'm going to paint in Sharon Carter's lipstick with some Wazdaka Red. Then I'm going to paint their hair with some Zandri Dust. And I'll wash Sharon's hair with some Army Painter Soft Tone. And Agent Coulson's hair will get washed with some Agrax Earthshade. And while that wash dries, I'm going to use some Dryad Bark to add a little bit of variation to Sharon Carter's base. And before I forget, I'm going to use a tiny bit of Iron Hand Steel just to paint the buckle on Carter's holster, and I'm also going to paint her zips as well. I'll then paint the rest of the base on Carter and all of Coulson's base with some Dawnstone. And I'm going to quickly dry brush their hair with some more Zandri Dust, as well as using some Grey Seer to dry brush the bases. Next I'll use Abaddon Black to paint the rims, and then lastly I'll wash the base with some watered down Agrax Earthshade. Once that's dry, that's 2 more bystanders done for Marvel Zombies. Some nice, very easy, simple, quick miniatures to paint. In fact, they didn't take too long whatsoever, clocking in at about 2 hours for the pair. Pretty simple and easy miniatures to paint. The only sort of difficulty I did find was with Sharon Carter. She's got quite a lot of lines sort of running down the top of her suit, and it was a little bit fiddly to make sure we didn't accidentally sort of cover up any shading. If you followed this guide and you found it useful, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Maybe think about giving the channel a subscribe, the video a thumbs up, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks again, and goodbye for now.